It's about the Castlefield Viaduct, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about.
Yeah.
The famous garden in the sky that's been done by the National Trust. And I thought you'd like this picture of it because it's got a is it a canal? It's a canal boat, isn't it? Rather
Narrow boat.
narrow boat. Sorry, I always get it wrong.
Boat.
A narrow boat. So it was built by the designers who designed Blackpool Tower, which I think is kind of neat, really.
Oh gosh.
So it went on for about that's that 70, 80 years, and it's now a Grade 2 listed building or edifice or whatever you want to call it. Oh, what I'm doing now is on any photographs I've got, I'm giving the reference to where I got it from as well. I think I need to do that really. To be fair on the photographers who've taken these things. And most of them I get from Wikipedia, which shows you how to do that, and they're all you can share, I know. Now the interesting thing about it is that it was based on two previous linear parks, the High Line in New York, which in 2019 had 8 million visitors.
Wow.
But look at the difference. The High Line is 2.3 kilometers long. The Coulée vers René-Dumont in Paris is 4.7 kilometers long. The Castlefield Viaduct is 330 meters long, which is a bit of a difference, really. Bit of a difference.
Good things come in small parcels.
Yeah, it's Manchester.
Manchester ambition, eh? It's fantastic.
As a girlfriend of mine once said to me, because she was quite small, diamonds aren't as big as bricks. Which is true. That was a little saying. There you go. Anyway, the Coulée vers René-Dumont. It's if I ever went to Paris, which I probably never will, I'd certainly go and see it. Let's see if I've got a picture of it. There it is in the summer.
Oh gosh.
It's on a viaduct called the Viaduct des Arts, and underneath it, all the arches, they've got arts groups and small craftsmen and things like that. It seems absolutely. Well, hi Maureen, good to see you. Well done for getting here.
I had to re-look at the details to get the password. Wouldn't let me read that password.
You've passed the test with flying colours. Well done. But I'm talking about the Bridgewater Viaduct, which was open to the public yesterday for the first time.
Okay.
So I'm just giving the context of it. And there are now several of these. There's a big one in Chicago as well. But I think the basic idea of having gardens up in the air like this is a very good one. You can see this is a viaduct and it's got very well established trees because it's been going. It's the oldest one of these using old railway tracks in the world, the Coulée verte in Paris. And that's another view of it. I think it looks sensational, doesn't it? It looks absolutely sensational, that. Anyway, let's get on to the Castlefield Viaduct Urban Park. The first phase of it, which is for a temporary park in the sky, opened yesterday, only for guided tours of, I think it's 100 max or something a day or something like that. And it's only for 1 year initially. And there are 3,000 trees, flowers and shrubs on it, which is quite a lot for only, a few hundred meters. And when I was doing this article, one of the people who edit it said, hang on, it only cost 1.8 million. Yes, but there are various quotes I've seen where it's expected to cost 20 million or more to rejuvenate the whole bridge on which it sits. So that's a significant fact, I think. Anyway, these all images taken from Gary Oakley, who's the Manchester Evening News reporter or photographer who took them yesterday. Typical opening scenes of a Manchester a Manchester event. I really like that one. It kind of sums it up, doesn't it, really, Manchester? Here, I just think the pictures he took are really, really good. You've got Castlefield Viaduct, and that actually one of the seminar I went to yesterday, I was mentioning, Derek, was run by a left-wing magazine called Meteor in Manchester on the planning process in Manchester. And they one of the questions they asked is, what do you think is the ugliest new building in Manchester? So we had a long debate about that. But certainly for me, the Beetham Tower is one of them, but that's just me. I just don't like it. And I also don't like the fact that the top bit emanates a hum in windy weather, which can be heard in Hume. Anyway, so that's a picture of it in context. I went in on the tram yesterday and I looked across because it's at that viaduct level, and I couldn't see where the park bit was because there are other bits of the viaduct as well, but it obviously must be there. I somehow missed it. And this is part of it, and it's going to have various information for visitors. I see they've left some of the graffiti on, which is interesting. That's a kind of geodesic style dome, isn't it, actually? And here's a plaque which has got all sorts of things, you know, the once a place of noise, industry and commerce, Castlefield is now a place of community, culture and recreation. It doesn't stand still. It showcases what has come before, opening its arms to the future. I think that comes under a kind of a title of inspirational quotes, which are never my favorite form of quote, but there you go. But it's interesting that they've got that there as well, and you can see across from it. Here are some of the flowers and things that they've planted.
Oh, that's lovely.
They do look nice. Give them credit for that. Well,
Yeah.
I think for 1.8 million, I could have done that as well, but there you go.
Well, yes.
These are very interesting places to sit. I presume they're places to sit rather than sculptures. But interesting. And that's probably a more typical view of it. It's certainly, you can see they've upgraded the basis of it, which was pretty tatty beforehand. And as it goes on, they've got a room at the end where presumably they can hold presentations and discussions and things about it as well. And that's a view from that. And you can see that obviously was finished before the planting was done. There's one which is a view of it from the external view. I've always loved the structures around that part of Manchester. I think they are really beautiful. The bridges, the whole mishmash of it with the canals and everything. It's wonderful. It is a wonderful area. I do. It's definitely one of my favourite areas. Oh, here's another little quote for you. Look, listen, feel. We want to know what you think this place could be. There's a bit of planting there. This way to an urban park hidden in plain sight. Here's the one I think I mentioned at the front, which is of the general Castlefield view. Now, what I want to go on, and this it's a fairly short talk, this because I haven't spent much time on it, is it a worthwhile project? Is it overall? Is it worth the cost that goes on? So I've done it in two sections, and see if you can add any to these. Well, the positive ones, it will be very popular. People will want to go to it, though they are restricted to going at certain times and with a guide to show them round. But it will be popular. Much of the funding has come from donations, so it hasn't necessarily cost the Manchester taxpayers any money. I don't think. I'm not sure about that. First of all, there's the overall point that any new green space in the centre of Manchester has got to be welcome.
Yes, I agree.
It's very lacking of an area, and on the article I've done on that, I go into more detail of what is happening to the green areas in Manchester, which is generally, if buildings are being built, they're being built on land, which includes green land, which means there's less of it going to be available, and certainly less of it in public hands. And the difference between public and non-public land is on the privately owned land, they can close it when they want, they can lay in stipulations as to who can go on it, they can shut it off, all sorts of things can happen. Just because they say they're going to let it open to the public doesn't mean they will, or they will in perpetuity when they find they get people that they don't like coming there. It will become a tourist attraction of sorts, though I don't think people will necessarily come to Manchester to look over 330 metres of garden, even if it is on an interesting structure, but it'll be an additional attraction. There is also the point of view, without developing it, the whole viaduct structure itself will become under threat. because it is, you know, it's getting older. It's 100 years older. Anyway, well, can you think of any additional views as to why it is a good thing? Have I missed anything?
Well, it's a use of something that's there for a different purpose. And I think anything that can use something that's been utilitarian, that changes its use, it's an interesting process. It's an interesting spectacle. It's great to see and go in and be able to walk in an area where you couldn't walk before as well.
I also think all green spaces, but somewhere like that, and you're walking through, I think it, in a way, it supports good mental health.
Yeah,
because it's relaxing and beautiful to look at.
Yeah, and it makes you think, I suppose, of reflecting on how it was before and what its purpose was before.
Yeah.
And that sort of,
Yes.
It gives you, it's a context of historical object that you're based on, which is different to a normal garden. I mean, I went to Tatton Park show, and there, you know, a lot of it is about small presentations of gardens that you don't look at necessarily the whole thing. You look at individual small bits. So maybe, and people will be more focused in a small area than they would just walking around a larger area. But I don't know whether that's an argument for it. But anyway, okay, have a look at some opposing views, which you might not be surprised to know include mine. It's only a temporary 1-year project. Yeah.
Do you think they'll extend it though? Because it's a lot of money to spend just for 12 months, isn't it?
Well, think about it. The way that they've done it, 3,000 plants, it's expensive planting. It's somewhere that needs to be looked after, and it has to be in a way curated and guarded. It's got an object, you know, the meeting room would easily be vandalized. So it's going to, I think it's going to have an ongoing cost to keep it going beyond a year, and they certainly need more money to do it. And that's maybe where the figure of £20 million eventually comes into play. So I think it is an issue that it's only a temporary 1-year project. Oops, it's not 18, it should be 1.8 million. Sorry for that. Its full cost could be 20 million. And that is and I think when you're doing that, you've got to think of opportunity costs. What could that money be otherwise used for? I mean,
employing people looking after it.
I mean,
if you've got something like that, I mean, it's a sure bet. If you need someone to look after it, you employ them, you pay them to look after it.
But this 20 million, I mean, you said that at the moment it was mostly donations, didn't you? But that's the 1.8 million.
Yeah.
But this 20 million, are they going to raise that from donations? Where is the money going to come from?
Well, I think that's the big unknown, isn't it? They'd have to get very big grants for that. And I think the city council would have to contribute quite an amount to it as well. Well, and also, my big point about this is about its viability on its present design. If you look at the New York one, it was very much based on just a fairly normal park planting. It was nothing special. There are lots of places around which are nice to go without them being looked after or guarded for. People just walk through them because they're normal. If you'd done something less expensive, less whizzy, you wouldn't necessarily need all that protection to keep the thing as it is. So it's a bit like it's okay having an exotic plant, but you can't take, you know, if you're having it in your garden, you'd have to have all sorts of special ways of development. It's Gordon doing his usual late entry.
Bernard, can I just say that they've done something similar, greenery around the Manchester City Art Gallery, and it's always had seating there. You could always, a while back with Estelle, we'd always meet and have a cuppa outside. There was always seating before going into a rehearsal. But now they've got it planted up and still with the seating. But I went with Manny last week and we just had a light lunch and it was really nice.
But that's fairly ordinary, isn't it? It's just like
Yes.
a little bit of a park, which I think is really fine. And in fact,
Yeah,
Manchester's
yeah,
really, really short of that. Really short of that.
Yeah.
I noticed that when I was in town yesterday, and I got the time of the meeting wrong, so I was an hour early. And I wandered around. There were very, very few places you could even sit outdoors around the northern quarter. You know, and when you're like me, you need somewhere to sit down occasionally.
Yeah.
Let alone nice places to sit. There weren't any places to sit.
What you're describing is really important. The environment, how we look after our heritage, you know, from the industry. I think all these places, I went with my middle daughter to the Bridgewater and it was absolutely jam-packed. You know, people having the flowers and the walls and everything.
Bridgewater Gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these should not be alternatives, you know, as though the purse is very narrow. If we actually tax the people, if we actually nationalize the public services and control them, and it's not going to the profits. I mean,
just to give an example, I've also done a study of the new Islington Green fight to keep this green area that was in New Islington, which is just near Ardwick.
Yeah.
And they ran a wonderful campaign, and they all got all these people involved, and it was just this piece of grassy area that hadn't got anybody looking after it. Therefore, it did have its problems with, you know, dog dirt and litter and whatever. But now the land has been sold, it's being developed, and it's owned by a private company, and that campaign failed, and that means a green area has been lost. You know, so it's really important. Those fights are really, really important. And I'm just saying with this one, as far as I'd far more like the Islington Green people to have won than this personally. I think this should be looked after. It's a very important structure, but I don't think you need to have quite such a fancy garden that requires such an expense to keep it going. That's just my personal view. Anyway, just coming on to this, these were the comments on the Evening News article yesterday. Just the first few comments, and I thought, very, very Manchester, this. No, oh, look, a Skyline Park. Another 500 a month for the rents for the city centre Muppets, then landlords will be rubbing their hands. I think what he means by that, which was true for New York, that the price of flats nearby the Sky Park went up because of because it became a tourist attraction.
Amenity.
So how is the New York High Line infamous? I thought it was excellent when I visited. Fair enough. Park. It's 24 plant pots on a bridge. Someone has cashed in big time on that 14 hours ago.
I rest my case about miserable Manchester.
Guaranteed to attract crime.
Yeah.
£2 million for a 1-year trial. Crying emoji.
No, you must admit you're a miserable set of so-and-so. I mean, when you state it yourselves, you know.
I agree. Would like to be proven wrong. Funding will run out like always. Jobs cut and the place will be an overgrown drug meet.
I was on the Costa del Mersey yesterday, walking on the beach with my daughter.
Final one. I'll give it 12 months. I just thought that was very, very Manchester.
Yeah.
And but any of these spaces, once they're there and they're used, there's so many little parks all over the place. But if you're sat in a car, you're not using them.
Matter of whether you think eventually the investment will prove itself or you don't. I mean, a similar argument was used. This seems totally irrelevant. When we're trying to make the town hall accessible, disabled people's groups, between the old town hall and new town hall, there was a bridge across, an internal bridge, which had steps on either side. So they put like a Stannah stair lift at either side. The problem with that is most of the time they didn't work. They were unwieldy, and it wasn't exactly helping disabled people. So he said, no, you've got to redo the bridges so that people will be able to go up on a slope and down a slope. And there were 2 of them, and it cost a lot of money. But that is, you spend it once and you've got loads and loads of years to actually gain the benefit. So you're right. Sometimes it's worthwhile spending the extra money because of the long-term benefit. Anyway, welcome, Christine. Welcome, Gordon, to this.
Hi, Christine.
But I do think Manchester's got a problem in the city centre with its public spaces and the lack of green space. You've only got to go to, I mean, London is blessed by its royal parks. You know, the fact that they had the royalty there. You've got Hyde Park right in the centre of the city. It's vast. You know, what we got, I don't know, Stevenson Square or something like, or Piccadilly. I mean, I think when they're going to knock that wall down in Piccadilly, which is going to be a bit like the overthrow of the Berlin Wall.
Berlin Wall. Yeah. I was thinking of that when I go past. I think, oh no.
I don't know why they put that wall up. I really don't.
It was done by a famous architect as well, Japanese.
Look, Carew was to knock it down.
Well, I think with lockdown, people have been outside more than ever.
Yeah, they have.
Which is a good thing. But Manchester, I don't know if anybody else has been into the centre of Manchester. It's the first time I've been in to the centre of Manchester for a long time.
Every week.
I felt really nervous. I felt like it wasn't a place I knew anymore. You know, there was something very alien about it, but that's just by the fact that I've not been there for a long time.
No, that was my experience as well, Bernard. You know, exactly the same. You know, having not been there for a long time. You know, and I suppose we tend to think of going to the outlying places. I mean, Heaton Park's magnificent.
Yeah.
Disley, lovely place. In Salford, you know, I've got really good walks here around Worsley Woods, you know, and again, the industrial thing round the Bridgewater Canal. You know, so the city centre is lacking green spaces. I agree. You know, we could have more of those in the city centre. But you tend to think of going outwards, and of course, the Derbyshire Hills are very close as well, aren't they?
Yeah, you can. Well, the great thing about Manchester is that you can get out of it very quickly. You know, I mean, which is true partly, isn't it? If you really want to find somewhere nice, there are places fairly close by, but it's still not the same as having the centre somewhere that you feel happy about being. I mean, one of the problem with the skyscrapers is on the thing I did on skyscrapers, you've got this wonderful drone footage of going through them, and you know, done on a quiet Sunday morning dawn, they look fantastic. But it's when you're walking around them and you're in the shade, you know, you're shaded by them. They're wind tunnels. There's nothing there at ground level. It's a totally different experience, and I think there's going to be more and more of that in Manchester as these sort of increasingly rise above us. How many architects live in high-rise flats?
No.
Somebody kept.
I should imagine those that aren't paid very much live in high-rise flats.